Welcome to this week's version of the Bearcast. I am your host, Cole Young, and I want to thank you for being on here. And if this is your first time, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that notification button so you make sure you stay up to date because we got a lot more content here coming up soon. And I'm excited to tell you when it eventually comes. But let's get to the stories of this week. And so, first things first, I'm going to kick it off with actually something different. It is the NBA All-Star Game slash weekend. If people did not know, last weekend was the NBA All-Star Game slash weekend. And let's just say it was disappointing for a lot of people. So first things first, there was the game between Shannon Sharp. It was the celebrity game and Stephen A. Smith. Shannon's team won. It was a good game overall. I thought that was probably the best part of All Star Weekend. Um, Second thing, the 3-point competition. Damian Lillard had a very, very good weekend. He won the 3-point contest with 26 points. That was a lot of fun. They also had the Sabrina Escune versus Steph Curry moment. That was also fun to see. Also, shout out to Sabrina. I hope you're doing well, my girl. If anyone does not know, she crossed me up on a one-on-one and 3-on-3. If y'all don't believe me, ask my boys back at Oregon slash in New Orleans. Yeah, I got crossed. And I mean, I'll admit it, but it wasn't pretty. It was not pretty. But yeah, Dame was 3-point winner. Sabrina, she actually put the same amount of points as Damian Lillard. Steph Curry won, but still, that was Sabrina's on another level when it comes to WNBA. But anyways, the dunk contest. Let's talk about that a little bit. Jaylen Brown, Mac McClung, and there were a couple of other people, but those are really the big two. But Matt McClung was able to go back to back, and that was the first time in a long time. Even though Jaylen Brown decided, you know what, I'm gonna dunk over Kai Sinnott, which who basically he 3 foot tall, and he put him on a chair. It's like 1.5, something crazy. And I'm just looking at that. I'm like, why would Jalen make that as a dunk? But yeah, and then last but not least, the big one out of all of it is the All Star game. Yes, the Eastern Conference played against the Western Conference. This is the first time that happened for a long, long time. And usually it was usually the two highest picked representatives for whatever, and then they pick which teams they want to play. And so last year was Team LeBron versus Team Giannis. LeBron team won, I think, but yeah. And so the score of the East game, I can't believe I'm actually putting this down on my notes and telling you guys this, but the East scored 211 points, and they won the game, and they beat the West team, and guess how much they scored? 186 points. That's just crazy. That is combined the highest scoring All Star game in NBA history. And a lot of people were not happy about it. They were not happy about the results. They were not happy about what was going on. And it makes sense. It makes sense for sure. And so let's talk about it. And overall, I didn't really watch that much of the All Star game. I watched a little bit. Luca actually had a pretty interesting dunk, and then Dame went and just shot half court and just made it effortlessly. I mean, Dame's a baller, but yeah, I think that this game needs to be revamped, and if I had to revamp it in any sort of way, I would keep the Rising Star game. I think that's fun. Have a little bit, have the celebrities do their thing. I thought that was fun. Um, I honestly think the 3-point contest can stay. That's always a fun contest to have. But also you keep the dunk contest. The dunk contest does need some more star players, and people were going at it saying, "Oh, well, look it's LeBron's fault. It's Michael Jordan's fault. It's all." To be honest, it has gone down. I don't care what you do. You got to get some big name talents, and I also think too you need to bring people outside of the NBA and participate in the dunk contest because if you think about it, you could probably get someone from the streets and maybe they're really, really good at dunking the ball and maybe they're better than an NBA player. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen guys go out and just ball out like that now. So, I think bringing in people, whether you're from Greece, whether you're from China, whether you're from the anywhere, whether you're from anywhere, I think there's always going to be talent that's going to be better than some guys. And I feel like that would actually kind of be a fun way to keep the players competitive. And then with the All-Star game, I would change it completely. I would make it the top 10 highest, like the best players, and they're all by fan vote. It wouldn't be by coaches, it wouldn't be by to say these are the players that would be like, I want to see them in this game, and they play against or 12, whatever. And it's the best, it's that five, like that team versus the streets team. And the NBA can pick whoever they want, but just does not have to be within the NBA. Say they can pick someone out of the middle of nowhere in Newfoundland or Canada, somewhere like that, and they just go up and they drop 50. I think it's a great way, and I think it shows at the NBA that like the players that like look, y'all want to just keep on taking 3-point shots, driving into the lane like it's nothing, and no one's giving an effort. Those guys right there can beat you any day, any minute. And I think the winner of the streets team was what I like to call it, is like the other people like that aren't in the NBA. They should get a 10-day contract somewhere. They like whether a team's interested, they sign some sort of deal where it's a 10-day contract and they're good to go, or they have something where they have some sort of financial asset to give. And if the NBA, like the players win, they probably get maybe a little bit of a pay boost. I personally don't believe $1 million is going to do anything. I think they'll still be entitled. There's been people like Kendrick Perkins, Austin Rivers that say, you got to pay them more money. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I think that's a wishful thinking ideology. And with that, we'll see what happens. But I really think that All-Star game needs to do better because tell you 397 points combined is no bueno. It looked it looked worse than the Pro Bowl. And I'm saying that disrespectfully because the Pro Bowl is now basically 7-on-7. I don't watch the Pro Bowl. It's not fun anymore. I mean, it's just people have gotten soft and I think it's now bleeding into other realms. I mean, the NBA's already been soft, but there's that too. I mean, literally they're also going to be like, look, it's in the middle of the season. So part of it's in the NBA. I think they also do need to restructure their form and their scheduling around basketball because I mean the NFL is starting to make it longer and trying to make it more like, okay, here's February, here you go, and they're going to try to do it as long as they can. While NBA is like they go for 82 games, they start around the same time as the NFL. They have to have some sort of brand differentiation because it's hurting them right now. And with this All-Star game too, it's actually hurting their revenue, the NBA's revenue, and that's going to affect other teams from expanding because the NBA wants to expand. They want to go out to Seattle. They want to go out to Vegas. Maybe Louisville, maybe some other places. But I think that it's going to hurt us too as the fans for us to support because I want to support a Seattle team. Don't get me wrong. I love basketball and I'm willing to support a Seattle team any day. But they don't because we used to have one, and then the Starbucks dude got broke, and the other one was like, you know what? I'm gonna move it to my hometown, Oklahoma City, which they're literally the most relevant thing in Oklahoma ever. I mean, besides Boomer Sooner, which I mean, they're literally the Cowboys of the of that area right there. I mean, they try to say, "Oh, we're gonna win the Natty." When was the last time y'all won the Natty? Oh wait. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But speaking of Austin Rivers, let's talk about his father, Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers is not doing too well in Milwaukee. If anyone has not seen it, Milwaukee isn't doing well. They've gone 3-7. They're losing games left and right. And Giannis doesn't look too happy. Dame does not look too happy. It's all over the place. And Doc saying, well, it's hard transitioning into a coaching job in the middle of a season. And JJ Reddick, he has his own podcast and he's also a first take analyst slash contributor, actually took shots at his former coach. And he said, this man has all the excuses for the world, but doesn't look at himself. Which, I mean, hey, in my opinion, he's valid enough where I can say, you know what? he has the space and the credentials to say that because he's played with them. He's able to experience with them. I mean, I'll tell you this. I can speak on things with certain coaches. I'm not going to say who because I'm not trying to get into that beef right now. That I know I can talk more than some of these cats. And Austin Rivers actually though came back at him and saying, "Look, he's like, you know, my brother, like he said, you know, my brother, but basically took him low swipe saying we had to take you out of the game because you were certain liabilities in certain areas. And it's just weird how you're trashing your coach that you literally played in your best times, which I disagreed. I think he played really well in Philadelphia, and I think that was his best time. But LA, though, is a close second. And so I see where he's coming at, and I kind of agree with some of the points. But I also am going to say, he's also defending his father, which I'm not going to knock him that. I mean, his father gave him an opportunity. And nepotism helped him out in the best way fashionable possible, which is not a I mean, it's I think it's ridiculous that people get nepotism opportunities, but then again, I'm not going to blame them. I mean, I'm not blaming Austin for getting a job at the LA Clippers when Doc was there. I don't blame him at all. He's taking care of his son. But I think that this is an interesting situation. We'll see what happens with Doc. I personally think Doc isn't going to do well. I think some of this blame is going to go on Giannis Antetokounmpo because I think Giannis. This is his fourth coach. This is his fourth coach he has gone through within the last couple of years. Yeah, you could say Budenholzer was kind of run out. I agree with that, but still, he was not happy with that coach. He was not happy with that coach. And the other coaches were trying to cut his brother, Thaddeus, who's basically a bench warmer. He plays here and there, but I'm sure Giannis is like, hey, make sure he gets some playing time. I need to make sure my brother's safe. You know what I mean? But I think Doc is a people pleaser. I think he's great on air, and I think that's it. I mean, yes, he won that one finals, and I'm not saying that the man is a bad coach. No, he's won a finals. Like he's pretty legit. He's pretty legit, but he does the mistakes over and over again. Look at LA. He had CP3, he had Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan all in their prime. And he still somehow, some way, fumbled the bag. I'm looking at that. I'm like, why? What's the correlation there? What is going on? And I think Doc Rivers is part of the problem. He also had a team where it was Joel Embiid, James Harden, even though James Harden was declining, and a couple of other guys. Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is underrated. How are you just going to let him just stand there in the corner and just be like, yeah, you know what? I'll just wait till the ball comes to me. I don't get that. I think, and he deserved to be fired there in Philly. He wasn't getting the job done, and Nick Nurse has done a phenomenal job stepping up. But this situation between JJ and Austin, I think there's more to it than just saying, "Oh yeah, because of playing time." I'm sure there are some other players that are going to attest for JJ saying, "Look, he's right." I mean, even Patrick Beverly, who plays with Doc Rivers at the Bucks now, is even defending him. And I mean, kind of rightfully so. I mean, that's his coach. And again, Austin Rivers defending his father. If my father was the head coach for the Ohio State Buckeyes or the Michigan Wolverines or whatever team it is, or the Detroit Pistons or the Portland Trailblazers, whatever it may be, I'm going to defend him because that's my father. I love my dad. So I don't blame Austin Rivers for doing that at all. I don't. I just think it's just interesting how this beef is going up. I was a little surprised what JJ said because I will say I can feel kind of like that. I wouldn't say he's like, oh, everything's cool. I think there's some beef involved. And trust me, when there's beef with coaches, you can tell. You can tell. And I've kind of experienced that firsthand. I'm not going to say who, but I have experienced it. And when when someone unloads the clip, they unload the clip. I think JJ unload the clip there. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's nothing bad. I honestly think it's nothing bad at all. But it's interesting. Speaking of basketball, let's transition to a little bit of college basketball. March Madness is coming up here soon. I know we're at the end of February. We're getting closer to March. So I just wanted to kind of do a little bit of basketball, college basketball. We will get more into March Madness and just talk about that. I might do that as a special segment, but we'll talk more about that later. But Washington State, the Cougars, they are actually doing really well in college basketball. They are ranked number 22 in the nation, and they just beat Arizona twice. Not once, but twice. So they have a basketball series, and they won two, I think two out of the three times. That is impressive. I don't care what team you are, what sport you are, for a team beating someone twice is impressive. I mean that Utah team that I was in when they beat us that one twice that one year, they were good. They were good. And I'm like, wow, they really beat us twice. And I will say Devin Lloyd is a baller. Devin Lloyd is a baller. That dude is I like him. I like him as a baller, all that. But yeah, no, I find that impressive. And Arizona too is number fourth in the nation. That's shocking. That is shocking to me to see Washington State handle business twice and kick Arizona's butt like that. So props to Wazoo. Y'all get the credit right there. So yeah, I wanted to give that, and then also some teams to watch. I want to tell you this. I've watched a couple of games, and there's some teams that have been catching my eye. And so the first one, North Carolina Tar Heels, they look exceptional. I think the Tar Heels look amazing. They've done really well, and they kind of have a resurgence now in basketball. And they beat a really good Duke team. Since Coach K's left, they've I feel like they've done a really good job. And so it's shocking to me how North Carolina is playing faster, better, and they took care and they handled business. They handled business. So I think North Carolina is doing a great job. So that's a team I'll watch. Wazoo, as I've already stated. UConn, they are the number one team in the nation. Something to be said there. Keep an eye on them. Alabama's doing really well in basketball. They're handling business. They're number one in the standings right now. And lastly, Colgate. This is the Cinderella team that I was like looking. I'm like, oh wow. And they've only lost once. They've only lost once in conference play. Something to be said there. And I like what's going on with that conference, and we'll see what happens. But that's something I wanted to mention. But speaking, we will stay in the college realm. We'll go into college football. Yes. So, if anyone has not known, the NCAA committee and the playoff committee has now approved a new 12 team playoff system for this upcoming football season. Before it was at four, but they wanted to change so they could have more teams in the portfolio. So now the five highest seeding conference teams and seven at-large bids will make the playoff. And I find this interesting. And they've also now talked. They're now. I've also heard rumors that they're starting to talk about a 16-team playoff system, which I think is too much. I think it's too much, and I think how the FBS is going, it is interesting what is happening within that realm. I used to be in that realm. I left it. I'm in the FCS now. But it is interesting because now it's getting to who wants the money more. Because I mean, for the five conference teams for the high seeds, I know the Big Ten is going to get one. I know the SEC is going to get one. I know the ACC is going to get one. I know the Big 12 is going to get one. What I'm going to be interested in is who's going to get that last spot. Whether it's the Mountain West, the American Athletic Conference, um, there's some, I mean, the Sun Belt, the it's probably going to be one of the group fives that will take that last spot, which I think is interesting. But I want to know who would be that conference, though. I mean, now with the Pac-12 basically obliterated to the Pac-2, they can't make it to the playoffs. That's no longer they don't consider that a conference. And I mean, they're right to a technicality because they did do an alliance with the Mountain West, so they might as well just merge with the Mountain West, in my opinion, and just create the new pack, like the Pac West or something like that, and just make that its own little realm. But it's interesting. I find it very. This system is not going to work. I know it's going to expand even more. That's why, in my opinion, this is kind of a crazy take, but I think they should just merge both the FCS and the FBS because it's really just becoming like this. I mean, the FCS playoff system is over 20 teams. And I think college football is going to soon become like the FCS, if not expand even more to at least like 40 teams. Or I could see it. I could really see 40 teams making to the playoffs. And I think this playoff system is going to fundamentally change football because now they're going to be like, oh, there's more money. And it's going to get to the point where it's going to become unsustainable and they're going to have to start tweaking and changing the football schedule for the NCAA because I don't see this working within the in the long term. Short term, yes, it will work for the time being. Long term, I don't see this being a viable option. But yeah, no, it will be interesting what's going to happen. And now, especially with NIL and now NIL boosters. Now, I just found out that in the states of Tennessee and Virginia, now that they can talk to high school athletes or transfer portal people and get them to their prospective programs, whether it's in Tennessee, Virginia Tech, Austin P, James Madison, wherever they are within that Division One or D2 area. I just find that interesting that they're allowing that now, and I think this NCAA is becoming in shambles, and now it's becoming this own little byproduct of the football's its own little byproduct, and now everything's being affected because of football. So yeah, no, I find it's fascinating. I mean, it's sad to a certain extent. I mean, I love Pac-12. I mean, yeah, I'm a back-to-back Pac-12 champion. I'm always gonna say I love my conference, even though it's dead to the ground. But that's my conference, and it's just unfortunate that money and politics are getting into the college football realm. But speaking of politics, let's get on to our last topic of the day, and that is the Justin Fields sweepstakes. Yes. So, as what I've mentioned before, Justin Fields is a hot commodity right now. And there's growing reports that the Las Vegas Raiders are going to make a push for Justin Fields and they're going to try to trade for him. And there's two teams right now that are currently interested. The Raiders and the other one has been disclosed. I don't know why, but they're keeping their name confidential. And Justin Fields is right now, he's kind of in the mix of this. He was just recently on the St. Brown podcast, those are by Ahmad St. Brown and his brother. And Justin Fields was kind of denying it. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm just trying to get off social media. He's going the politically correct statement. And this is unfortunate because I think Justin Fields has improved tremendously this last half of the season. He was playing like he was playing that everyone expected him to. And now, since the trade with the number one overall pick to get Bryce Young for DJ Moore and two first round picks is now in play, it's sad. I mean, it's sad that all this is going down and now Caleb Williams is going to have to become a Bear because I mean, I think it's going to happen, but the writing's on the wall. I mean, yeah, AJ Brown's unfollowed the Eagles and other players have. I mean, that's still a pretty good notification. I'm not saying that's the end all be all, but that's a pretty telling like thing to say when someone unfollows you. I mean, that's their way of saying I'm done with you. Like, thank you next. But yeah, no, I think Justin Fields deserves better. He's a great player, and wherever he goes, I will be rooting for him because he deserves it. And I honestly think he is an upper echelon quarterback, but he needs to have more consistency because he has the talent to be a top 10 quarterback, if not a top 5 quarterback. He just needs consistency and good weapons and at least some good coordinators around him because Chicago failed him failed him so bad. And so it's just unfortunate seeing now, oh, yeah, we're just going to reset the clock and get it to someone who hasn't done well in Power 5 defenses. So I'm not a huge fan of this deal. I think they should keep him. I mean, if we're going to see anything, watch out for this upcoming week with the NFL Combine, which we will get more into. But remember, when the Panthers made the trade to get the number one overall pick, they did it during the combine. They didn't do it during draft day. They did it during the combine. And all those executives and all the management, the coaches, it's Met Gala. That's their Met Gala, if that makes sense. I mean, they talk about everything. So if the Raiders want to go up to the Bears and saying, "Hey, we'll give you this year's first round pick for him," they'll do it. They'll do it, but we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be an interesting time. I hope Justin Fields stays at Chicago, but I realistically think he is not, and I think he's going to get traded. But we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong because I want Justin Fields to thrive and succeed in Chicago because Chicago has been an atrocity with I mean, besides politics within itself, and that's its own little quarter right there, if you know what I mean. Football wise, they haven't done well, and that city deserves more than what that management is giving them. But yeah, that's the show. No question of the week. No one gave any questions. But if you guys have any questions, you feel free to more drop down in the comments section. But yeah, I got bigger plans to tell you guys here later. But I'm excited what's going to happen here. But thank you again. Have a blessed day, everyone. And yeah, stay smooth.